Our next chapter is called The Dancing Plague. The dancing plague started innocuously enough. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Trophäa began dancing in the street. To modern minds, the thought of anyone dancing probably conjures an image of someone who is happy or celebrating or listening to some cool music. That is a testament to the fact that we live in a world filled with music and causes for celebration. You could dance a jig in a supermarket if you wanted to. It would be weird, but people would just think that there was a really good sale on Pringles. Not so in the 16th century, an age with less omnipresent music and virtually nothing to celebrate. The years surrounding 1518 were awful. This was a century of plagues, famine, and war, but none of that stopped people from dancing. They danced a lot, not because they were happy. They did so because they were nearly mad with woe. It was a truly terrible time to be alive in Alsace. I know throughout this book on plagues we won't encounter many good years, but this period was particularly dreadful. The year 1517 was so awful that it was sometimes called the bad year. Taxes had been at an all-time high, and crop yield was low, resulting in great famine made worse by the fact that peasants had been forbidden from fishing in streams and hunting in the local woods. Think The Hunger Games, book or movie, District 12. Smallpox ravaged Strasbourg, while the bubonic plague broke out in Molasse. Many of the region's young men had been killed battling the Turks. The superstitious claimed they could see the dead roaming the streets at night. Dancing was a way to escape the nightmarish world through physical exertion, the way you might decide to hit the gym after a bad day at work. It was in this context that Frau Trophäa began her dance. Some onlookers suspected that Frau Trophäa was only carrying on because nothing annoyed her husband more than just dancing. People thought she was dancing wildly to perhaps make some kind of elaborate point to him. Whenever there is an outbreak of mass hysteria, some people always decide the victims are faking it. After some time, rather than going home to do 16th century wifely duties, Frau Trophäa passed out in the street. As soon as she woke up, she started dancing again. By the third day, blood was oozing out of her shoes, but still she danced. If she was merely doing this to annoy her husband, who admittedly sounds very uncool, she certainly should have stopped. By then, everyone was watching with horror. Soon, dozens of other townspeople would mysteriously follow her lead. Within a few days, 30 people had followed her dancing lead, equally joylessly. Their feet bled until you could see their bones. Their bones were poking through their flesh. People kept dancing until they had heart attacks or collapsed from dehydration or infection. Not surprising, since their bones were sticking out of their feet. Remarkably, this behavior wasn't altogether uncommon. In 1247, about 100 children danced out of the German town of Erfurt, which sounds really cute, until you take into account that by the time their parents found them, many were dead. In 1278, 200 people danced, again seemingly joylessly, over an unstable bridge, which collapsed, killing all of them. In 1347, dancers in the Rhineland cried out like lunatics that they were dying. Some people joined in without actually being ill. The 16th century chronicler Speckling claimed that there were many frauds trying to benefit from the situation, since the town citizens were donating food. Free food was a big draw if you had survived the scarcity of the bad year. Later in the summer of 1518, a notice in Strasbourg read, "There's been a strange epidemic lately going amongst the folk, so that many in their madness began dancing, which they kept up day and night without interruption until they fell unconscious. Many have died of it." The Chronicle suggests that 15 people were dying per day. Hysterical outbreaks did not disappear after the 16th century. They still occur today. While the science behind them isn't fully understood, they are often thought to be related to terrible or repressive circumstances, the mind's confused and disordered attempt to make the conditions bearable. In 1962, there was a laughing outbreak at a girls' school in Tanzania. It began with one girl laughing, then spread to the rest of the classroom, and then the entire school. It spread to at least 217 people. The girls alternated between laughing and crying and became violent when the teachers demanded they stop. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and we will finish with this one next time.